All right, so we're going weiter in Shi'ur and Chelik over here, and we're starting the Gemara from 11 lines up from the bottom of Tzadi Yomad Beis. Tanya Omer B'Elazar Rabbi Yossi. Elazar Rabbi Yossi said the following: "B'dover zeh zeyapti sifrei minim." With this idea that he's going to mention, he was mezayef. He was able to prove the falsehood and the forgeries of the sifrei minim. So it should really be, I think this Zion over here changed it to sifrei kusim tzedukim. Yeah, over here it says Sifrei Tzeduk, Kusim. Shahayu Oimrim ain't Tchias HaMesim in HaTorah. The Kusim were non-believers in Tchias HaMesim. Amarti Lahem, I said to them, Ziyaftem Teraschem. V'lei Halesim Yedchem Klum. You tried to forge our Torah and you didn't end up with anything. Meaning you changed your Torah to make it fit with your agenda, but you didn't end up with anything because even your changes and alterations to the Torah, it still proves Tchias HaMesim. And it's going to get very technical in a little bit. You're just buzzing them. Who cares? So, She'atem Oimrim ein Tchias HaMesim in HaTorah, because you say that there's no Tchias HaMesim in HaTorah, right? Hariu Oimer, the pasuk says, meaning that the fact that Tchias HaMesim exists is something that's fakir from the Torah, right? Harei Huaymer, the pasuk says, by somebody who's over Avodah Zarah, it says, Hikares hanefesh ahi avoyna ba. That the person who's doing Avodah Zarah, the lashon pasuk is Hikares, a double lashon of kares, push door, the third one. You did that. Hikares hanefesh ahi avoyna ba. That the nefesh that does avodah zara is going to get kares. He kares ba'olam hazeh avoyna ba la'emas l'olam haba. So what does that mean? This is the next raya that the Gemara is going to bring to prove that Tchias HaMesim in HaTorah. It goes like this. Again, the pasuk says he kares and nefesh ahi avoyna ba. He kares will get cut off ba'olam hazeh avoyna ba, that your avera will still be with you. Where's that going to affect you? Is it not going to be lo'olam haba? So Omer of Papa Labaya, Frektor of Papa Tabaya, V'leim Lahu Tarvaya Mehi Kares Tikares. Maybe we should say that Hikares Tikares. Okay, go watch. Hikares Tikares is going to be that Hikares is ba'olam hazeh and Tikares is lo'olam haba. So Zok Dabaya Inu Hava Amrle Zibatar Klashim Ne'adam. If we would ask the Kusim, that's what they would tell you. They'll tell you that the Torah is Dibra Torah Lashon B'nei. That's the normal lashon of speaking. I guess for those who it was normal for them to speak lashon hakodesh, to say a double lashon of hikares tikares. So it doesn't necessarily mean that hikares tikares is going on. One is going for elam hazeh and the other is going for elam haba. Kitanoi, like we learned in a brayso, which is machlekes tanoim, on this exact idea of how to learn the pasuk of hikares tikares hanefesh ahi avoyna ba. Hikares ba'olam hazeh, Hikares ba'olam haba de Rabbi Kiva. Hikares, the first one is to teach me that he gets kares in olam hazeh. Tikares means that he gets cut off in olam haba. Amalei Rabbi Shmuel said to Rabbi Kiva, but like Varnemar, didn't the pasuk say as Hashem hu megadev in Nichrasa? There's a pasuk earlier. The pasuk right before that says that a person who's megadev as Hashem, mevarech as Hashem, so he gets kares already. Are there three worlds? Ela v'nichrasa ba'olam hazeh. He kares is l'olam haba. He kares, ti kares is dibra Torah Lashon B'nei Adam. So it goes like this. It's a little technical. Just pay attention to how he's darshaning. One pasuk that's not going to help. You're looking for a Gemara. Yeah. 11 lines up. I mean, now it's about 9. Even less. 7 lines up. So he's asking, are there three worlds? Why? Because it says V'nichrasa 3 times. Because in the first pasuk of Megadef it says Es Hashem hu Megadef V'nichrasa. Then afterwards it says in this pasuk of Avodah Zarah, Hikares Tikares hanefesh ahi avoyna ba. So what are we talking about? So are there 3 worlds? El v'nichrasa ba'olam hazeh. V'nichrasa means that he's going to get punished in this world. Tikara is he kares is l'olam haba. He kares tikares dibretar klashim liadam. It's a big shmuas stamizay. It's good to know, and I didn't want to get into this tonight. We'll save it for a different time maybe. But a lot of Mefarshim bring out this point over here. What is kares? We talk about it. Person is haveris chayv kares. What does that mean? No zog.
Rashi, it's kares is until. Oh, if you're Rashi kares and I forgot. I don't know.
Right. So I think what you were going on is like this. There's a famous Ramban that talks about it. Okay. That Rashi, what you were saying, that Pashas means that a person will die before 60 or will die without children. Yeah, that says what? You remember? I get Yavamas.
You say it?
Get from the small shas up on top. Should be volume 2. So the Ramban famously says that kares means that it's not an olam hazeh, it's something that the olam haneshama, it's a punishment that an neshama olam haba. It's not a physical punishment, as we always assume that it means that a person will die before 60 or will die without children. Right? We know the Gemara at the end of my cut what? So what we're seeing here now, this Gemara is saying that he kares ba'olam hazeh, he kares olam haba. It is going on both. Now, if you know the Gemara Moed Katan says, I think it's Avchav Ches, around there towards the end of the Masechta, it says that Rabbi Yosef celebrated when he turned 60 because now he's Yartzim Kares, and people still do that today. And Stam is a very interesting point that we know from the Gemara Kedushin that a person who's considered a Zokain, they have to stand up for them. So somebody who's Ben Shivim, or he's 70. Machlekes. What's Machlekes? No. We're talking about someone's not a Talmud Chacham. Oh. Yeah, so there's two things. There's a mitzvah of standing up for Talmud Chacham regardless of age, and then there's
Rashi says that Kol Arayos Hu V'Zarei Nechris, that him and his kids will get.
Oh, okay.
So we have colleagues, you and your kids.
And the difference between Kares and Misa B'Dei Shemayim. That's the difference in Kares and Misa B'Dei Shemayim.
The Kares is him and his children. Misa B'Dei Shemayim is just the person himself. Yeah. Good. That's probably what you're coming from. Yeah, where he's coming from.
This isn't the sugya. Tais is coming.
I understand.
He's not. The point isn't on Lagabe Kares. He's coming to ask a question on the Mishnah.
Yeah.
It's a whole complicated thing.
Yeah, understand.
Just read the whole.
No, Oh, so I just want to... You have it or you don't have it?
I mean, I have it. It's over here.
Where is it?
The Loy Tachin...
The Loy Tachin Pirz El Rashi. Shem Dechol Kares Hu V'Zara Nechras. The Hand Ikim Kares Lamizit Teshmaim. El Rivar Shem Dei Nechras Hu V'Zara. By Arayas, Dichsev Hu Ariri. By Arayas, it says Ariri. Ariri means to die without children.
So meaning by...
The Tafka by Arayas, the Pasuk says... That there's a pasuk that will teach you that.
On Rashi, because Rashi is saying, why does that say Ariri?
The chiluk yesh ben misa l'kares kedamar b'Yerushalmi. The kares ben nun. Kares is you die by 50. The mapiklim the tzivah techris or shevet hakahasiv avedosam ad nun. Misa he besamach kemese midbar. Misa so kares over here. The Yerushalmi learns kares is 50. Misa b'dei shemayim is 60. The tzivah tamu sham yamusu. V'chiluk ala shas shalonu. Oh, it brings my Moed Katan. Very good. He argues on our Talmud, meaning that the Yerushalmi argues on our Gemara. So b'Moed Katan aminan minun va'ad samach zuim misas kares. Anywhere between 50 and 60, that's a misa of kares. V'nu chalem lefi hashash shalonu the misa b'dei shemayim achar shishim. V'koydem zman kares. What did you say?
This would be the rival. If you Rashi kares is not, is it?
So this is what the Gemara says on Moed Katan. It's really machlekes b'Av and Yerushalmi. So what we're saying over here is that the Gemara Moed Katan says that from 50 till 60, that's going to be Misas Kares, and after 60, that's going to be Misas B'dei Shemayim. Go ahead. Fine. So then, Zok the Gemara weiter, so what's the pshat in Hi Kares, Ti Kares? So Hi Kares, Ti Kares means, so let's get back to what we were saying before. The Minchas Chinuch, in discussing the mitzvah of standing up for V'adarta Pnei Zokain, he brings from the Birkei Yosef, who's the Chidon Shulchan Aruch, who brings from the Arizal that you stand up for anybody over 60. Not 70, but afilu a ben shishim. The kach mavur over there. Why? It's the stam apik. What?
You say the numbers change nowadays? 60 that's over.
I don't know that we say such a thing. It's an interesting question. You have to ask those that are busy with doing things differently because times changed. I'm not sure. What? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that today's poskim say if they say anything different.
Like not wearing ties once a Shabbos.
What does that have to do with nowadays?
Because he probably finds it funny that I'm wearing a tie.
No, it's not funny.
It's a state halacha that Motzei Shabbos is a din of Shabbos. You should continue wearing your big day Shabbos.
Right.
So if you wear a tie on Shabbos, which you should anyways, al cover Shabbos, so then you should continue wearing it Motzei Shabbos. For those who don't wear ties on Shabbos, that's a separate question. That's a question made
That was
kara.
my joke. Times changed. That was my joke.
Yeah, what? What? I didn't say anything about them. I just said it's a question.
Didn't the straws fall on the floor? Yeah.
Anyways, Bein Rabbi Shmuel, Bein Rabbi Kiva, Avoina Ba Ma'avdi Lei. So whether you go according to Rabbi Shmuel or whether you go according to Rabbi Kiva, what do you do with Avoina Ba? What do we learn out from Avoina Ba? That the Aveira sticks to the person. So Zok the Gemara L'chid Tanya, we have a brayso that says Yachal Afilu was a tshuva. You would think that Avoina Ba, the Aveira sticks to the person even after they did tshuva. Talmud Leimer Avoina Ba. Therefore, the pasuk has to tell you Avoina Ba le'amarti ela b'zman she'avoina ba. That the only time that a person will get kares is Kol's man, he didn't do tshuva yet. But if he does do tshuva, then it's not an issue. Let's see Rashi. Ziyaftem v'lei halisem. Cause of atam imrim, falsehood you are saying, ve'in mamish b'devrechem. There's no mamash just what they're saying just a bunch of silly things. Alav le'el maba, al miyesh tchis ha'mesim. Right? Hikares tikares is al maba. Now it's interesting. Because till now we're talking about tchis ha'mesim as in the people waking up from the dead. Over here we're talking about over here it sounds like we're talking about more of Olam Haba, that there's an afterlife b'chlal. Because that's what we're talking about Olam Haba. So what is Olam Haba? Again, we'll mention quickly, Machlekes Rishonim, Rambam, Ramban. When we get into the sugya of Chishlesh Olamim Yesh, that gets interesting mitzvah itself, because there's Olam HaNeshamas, and there's Olam Hazeh, Olam HaNeshamas, and Tchis HaMesim. So Olam HaNeshamas and Tchis HaMesim, they're totally Zabazeh. Right? So let's say that even if just the way that the schedule is supposed to be, that it's first Tchis HaMesim, which then ultimately turns into the Olam HaNeshamas, however that's going to work, right? By the way, just to put it out there, interesting thing. Hopefully, we'll get to talk about this later on. There's a Gemara about this later. We're very used to thinking and hearing that the world only lasts for 6,000 years. That's true, but what happens to 7,000 years? What happens then? Shabbos, and then 8,000 and stuff. It goes right and right. It doesn't stop.
Restarts.
What?
Restart.
So at one point the Gemara says that things restart, that the tzaddikim grow kanafayim and they fly over the olam, whatever that means. But that's some shaykh more to the olam hanashamas. I don't want to get into this now because I don't know enough about this. But al kapanim, the world doesn't end. Nitzchias doesn't mean that when you hit 6,000 it's over. How could you say such a thing? Nitzchias means that it's lo netzach. It can't be confined by a number. If you're telling me that we're stopping at 6,000, so let's just close up the books right now. What's the guy doing anything? Obviously, it's nishtamas. What does that mean? Translate from our Kahelis expert.
Generation
Comes and generation goes.
With the arts, La'olam Hamadas.
Right, which
I don't
means
know if La'olam means past. What does La'olam mean in that case? I don't know.
it's a good question. I don't either know. Or take a look in the Rashi over there. I'll go upon him. So that's what we're saying. Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I just wanted to mention. That there's a Elef Hashmini and Elef Hachi and Elef Asiri, and these aren't physical times. These aren't physical terms. It's not. Again, we're dealing with Mashiach. We're dealing with Olam HaNeshamas. We're dealing with Tchis HaMesim. We're dealing with things that the Rambam says that we don't have a hasaga in, and don't try to figure it out because I don't know. We don't know. We only have what Chazal teach us. So. We don't have anything else. So.
Which is a lot, no?
Fine. It still doesn't.
Not everyone knows every single Chazal, right?
Well, that's for sure. But the point is that we don't know. Even what we know from Chazal, there's still a lot missing. Many different shittas in Chazal also, as we're going to see soon in our Gemara, right? It's talking not so pushed. Okay, so lav olam haba is not talking referring to olam haba. Alma yesh tchias hamesim. There is tchias hamesim. So the Gemara he kares tikares. He kares by olam hazeh. Tikares olam haba. So inu hava amri. So if we would ask the kusim what they would hold about this, they would tell you dibra Torah k'lashem b'nei adam. That the Torah speaks the language in a regular language that people speak. Ulahachi amar lahu hachi. That's why the Torah talks like this. Right? Meaning that's why the Torah would say that they shouldn't have an excuse to come up with something. Hikares tikares ba'averes kechavim kseva like varnamar ba'averes kechavim as Hashem hu megadav v'nechru. So didn't the previous pasuk just say that as Hashem hu megadav from gekares? The svirule megadav hainu averes kechavim. Okay, this enters into a whole new sugya. The beginning of Masechta Krisis, and over here the Mefarshim dealt with it a little bit also. What exactly is a Megadav, right? So, if you're familiar with the Mishnayos there in Krisis, the first Mishnah, so there's your 36 Chayvei Krisis, and Rabbi Kiva Omer Afa Megadav, even a Megadav. So Megadav is a machlekes, but basically it's either some kind of a specific kind of avodah zarah, let's say, or it means Mevarech as Hashem. Obviously not Mevarech, because that's, we took Lashon Sagging Nohar. Exactly. Right. So over here, this Gemara holds. What? Exactly. The Sfirulei, Megadav Hainu Oived Aves Kechavim. Where does Lamed tell us to look in earlier in Sanhedrin on 64b and Krisus 7b? B'chishleisha Lamim Yesh. Are there three worlds? Rabbi Kiva Sfirulei, the Megadav Hainu Mevarech Hashem. What Rabbi Kiva says over here, because Rabbi Kiva over there says in Krisus that Megadif is Mevarech Hashem. Bahashta ben Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Kiva avarna b'may avdile meboyle that it only calls money into tshuva. Avarna ba shaloi shav kaidamisa have bakaras al shavloi. Person who does tshuva, then you don't have to worry about cars. Okay, so the first thing I do with that cloud when I learn a Gemara is I think of all the other places where we have such a concept, such an idea. And I want to start with the Marsha here, but it's just interesting that came across the Gemara in Sotah and Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis talking about when they're going to come into Eretz Yisrael and they're going to do the brachas and the klalos on Hagrizim and Har Eval. So the Gemara has. We're going to have to go through this Gemara here in Sotah to see what's going on. But before we do that, I just want to turn to the Marsha over here. Marsha says that the Kusim changed the Psukim, meaning that the rayas that the Gemara previously brought to prove Tchias HaMesim in our Torah, right? Right? And we were medayik, the Gemara was medayik from the fact that it says Lahem and not Lachem, right? So they changed it back to Lachem. Yeah? So if they change it to Lachem, then it stems with their agenda. Then mikan that there's no Tchias HaMesim. What it means is they prefer in Torah, right? And these kind of ideas, right? So that means that Eretz Yisrael was given to the people that were living there b'shas Ma'asan, that there is no Tchias HaMesim. So that was that, and so even if they're going to go, even if that's true, that the pasuk is going to say L'avaysechem v'lasais lachem to you. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised the Avos that He's going to give them, Eretz Yisrael, right? But Lahem, if you change it to Lachem, it's just going to mean to the people that are the descendants of these Avos. Not that the actual Avos are going to get it, or that the descendants, meaning that even the dead ones are going to come alive to Yarsha and Eretz Yisrael, right? So he says that even if you don't have a raya from that pasuk, you could still bring a raya from this pasuk of Hikares Tikares, because from the fact that the pasuk, as the Gemara just explained, that from the fact that you have twice, it says Hikares Tikares, besides and Avoina Ba, and also Tikares from the previous pasuk, so then that's going to be a raya to Tchias HaMesim and Torah. Okay, now we're starting our journey off the page. First, it's going to be a little history class from not so long ago, and then we're going to get back into this Marsha and this Raya, and then we're going to get into our shmuz about the Kusim. So, it's very interesting. So, everybody...
Introducing ourselves to Judaism?
If you would like to call it that, you can.
You called it that.
Anyway, so, we're very familiar with the I shouldn't say that. We're not familiar with many of the German Rabbonim from 200 years ago. I mean, the most famous that we know of are, let's say, Shem Shemfal Hirsch, Aruch Laner, where Shem Shemfal Hirsch's Rebbe, right? But at the same time, there's somebody, Rabbi Hildesheimer, who had a seminary in Berlin. Seminary means that they learned Limudei Kedesh and Limudei Chol, which was more or less accepted in Germany at that time. Shem Shemfal Hirsch, Term Dar Cheretz, right? That whole business. At the same, after Rabbi Hildesheimer passed on, his Talmud, whose name was David Tzvi Hoffman, took over. So I want to give a little bit of a Torah to who Rabbi David Tzvi Hoffman was. So at that Kufa, the scientists, the Chachma of the world at that point in time, all of a sudden became very, very anti-religion. Not just Judaism, but anti-all religion. Because they held that if you want to write, let's say you want to prove something in science, right? So how do you prove it? People are going to go for what you write. So you have to bring sources, and you have to bring Makairis, and you have to back yourself up. You have to bring good writers, otherwise it's not worth anything. So these Chachamim, not the Chachmei HaTorah, they held very stark that if you want to bring a raya, if you want to say something, you have to bring a raya, you have to back yourself up, right? Now religion, it happened so long ago. You don't have any rayas, right? So if you want to have religion, you have to back it up. There's no way to back it up. So my religion is not true, right? Whether it's Judaism, Christianity, Islam, it's all out the window. And they were very, very anti-religion altogether because you have to bring raya. You don't have a raya, doesn't count. It was big machloikas. So that was the tkufa when they were very busy with biblical criticism, bringing rayas to their agenda from the Torah, from the Bible. And it's a very, very interesting limud, biblical criticism. Your Rebbeim will tell you to stay far, far away from this. So obviously I didn't.
So that means you're not a Rebbe.
I didn't say I'm not your Rebbe. I said your Rebbeim will tell you to stay away from it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point was that he got very, very involved in this malacha, and he wrote against these people very, very stark by bringing rayas from Chazal and from the Torah itself to prove to them. What was the point of their whole idea? The point of this whole idea was to try to machavek with religion. How are you going to machavek with it? How are you going to get rid of it? By saying you don't have proofs, so then it's all out the window, right? He said, "Punkt verkehrt. I'll bring you rayas from Chazal. I'll bring you rayas from Torah itself to prove to you that Torah is min hashamayim. That Moshe Rabbeinu did give us a Torah in our Sinai." But he did bring out a lot of very, very interesting points. Now, B'shas Maisa, he was very busy with this. Rosh Shemfal Hirsch came up very, very stark against him. He said, "Who cares what they're doing? Why do we have to fend for them?" Right? So what if some shegitz, says something, anti the Torah? Why does anybody have to care about him? The fact that you're arguing with him shows that he's worth his salt, right? So don't argue with him. Don't engage with them. Don't enter into conversation with them, and you don't have to be worried about him. So that was Reb Shimshon Hirsch's opinion. Rabbi Hoffman held stark not like that. He wrote a beer on the entire Chumash. And it's fascinating. It's very, very technical. And he brings kam v'kam rayas showing from Torah Shabbat Peh all kinds of aychoches to the emes of Torah Shabbat Ksav. It's not something that we necessarily do, right? It's very heavy to learn. It's a very hard sefer to learn. They actually reprinted it, saved the 2 volumes on Sefer Vayikra very recently. They redid it, made it very, very nice. That's what he wrote. Nishno them, but he was also very busy trying to prove that Chazal was accurate, and Chazal was correct, and Chazal knew what they were talking about, and Chazal knew science, and Chazal knew the Chachma, right? And he goes through a lot of that shmuzin as well. And he ultimately discovered a lost Sefri on Sefer Devarim that we did not yet have. So the Sefri and as well as Mechilta de Rashbi. So the Mechilta that we have, we know from Gemara, the regular Mechilta and Sefer Shemais that we have, that comes from Rabbi Shmuel. But he also discovered, if I'm not mistaken, it was him who discovered this, the Mechilta de Rashbi, which is a medrash halacha, and Sefri is also, it's a medrash halacha. There's two kinds of medrashim. There's medrash halacha and medrash agod. The medrash halacha is like Mechilta, Safra, and Sefri, Teres Kehanim, right? So it's on Sefer Yikra. Safra is Teres Kehanim, Sefri is Bamidbar. We didn't have a Sefri on Devarim until 150 or so years ago, until he discovered it. I mean, we knew he came across it in some old library that in some place that we didn't know existed, and at the same time he also discovered this Mechilta de Rashbi, and he put it out as well. Now today there's a whole movement of printing and publishing all these so-called lost midrashim, whether it's Bati midrashas that we have here. There's something called, the guy in Eretz Yisrael did a very nice job, Yalkut Midrashim it's called. There's a Oitzer Midrashim from Eisenstein, and
somebody put it on fake
that's Yerushalmi Kachim. That's a whole different story, but it goes along very, very stark with a little bit of the shmuz. I'll tell you why. Because if he was able to come up with a Sefri on Devarim, right, which was accurate, which is true, it was around the same as Kufa as the discovery, the alleged discovery of the Yerushalmi Kachim. It happens to be that this Reb David Tzvi Hafner was one of the first people to call out the Yerushalmi Kachim. How did he figure it? So there were many holes in it. As smart as so if you would look at it, and if I would look at it, you would think it's excellent and wonderful. They say that it was the Rogachav and the Me'ames that noted that the Iker Chesaron was, what they found like a big hole in it, was that every Masechta has a new name, and he wasn't Mechadish any names for this whole Yerushalmi. There were many other Shverkites with it. I don't have it in front of me. I don't have the story in front of me right now to do. So it's on Eitzar Chachma. You could find it, but I don't know. It's interesting. Many of the Gdolei HaPoskim of that time did quote from it as if it was the real thing. It was a very, very big. Obviously, it was a very, very exciting and big discovery. It happens to be that at that time there were many of the Gdolei Yisrael were very busy with Yerushalmi at that time. We find that Kufa led to the beginning of the 1900s, the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, a big movement, Bichlal in learning Yerushalmi, in Lita and Poland and in these places. Chofetz Chaim is very busy with it. If I'm not mistaken, Chofetz Chaim himself quotes from this Yerushalmi Kachim. The Marsham quotes from it. Even Reb Chaim Moshe could be. I mean, these were the Gedolim at that Kufa. Reb Chaim Moshe was much younger then, but there you go, Ash. You wash on bagels. I don't know what you.
Usually do. Well, I'm only going to be here.
Oh,
I have to come.
So wash and you'll bench when you leave. So then there were many people who were very fachat by it, that held that this was the right, that it was real and it was emes and it was the right mahalach, and we should learn it and we should get busy with it. The problem was that eventually the Gdolim came out against it. The Gdolim, the Hainu, the Me'ames, the Rogachav, the David Tzvi Hafman, they came out very stark against it. There was a back and forth between the Kli Chemda and others. The Kli Chemda was a Talmud Avnei Nezer, who wrote a fascinating Svarim on Chumash and on Sefer HaMitzvahs called, I can't remember exactly, Chemdas Yisrael on Mitzvahs, beautiful Sefer, full of real Polish Pilpul and Lumbus. Unbelievable Sefer.
You said Polish alumnus.
Yes.
Is that a thing?
Unfortunately, many of the Talmidei Chachamim in today's world don't subscribe to it, but it's. I find it to be a lot more entertaining than regular Yeshiva Shalomdus.
What is entertaining?
If you would learn it, you would know. You look into. Not everything that's entertaining is funny, but it's very, very pilpuli, meaning that they don't necessarily have such stark hanachas and everything, but everything comes from a Gemara, all kinds of rayas from all over, Kol Torah Kula, Halacha, Agada, Midrashim, Kabbalah, you name it, they have it in their Truvas, to try to be Miyashiv, some issue with the Tefillin, bring you 4 Zoyars and 3 Midrashim and 7 Yerushalmis, this way, that way, the other way. It's very, very fascinating. Anyway, so the Klichemda was from that school of thought. He's a Talmud Rabbi Nezer, and he didn't let go of the Yerushalmi Kachim for a very, very long time. He held on to it very, very stark. Why? It was very, very exciting to have discovered a lost chelik in Torah that was lost for so many years, and it was just an unbelievable simcha by the Chachmei Yosei Hador that it was very hard for them to let go of it. There's back and forth, a whole bunch of contrasting that he wrote, that others wrote, defending it, pro it, anti it. It took a long time for the dust to settle. Ultimately, the guy was caught. The guy was caught forging it. Part of his cheshbon, what?
What did they do with him?
What did they do with him? I think he sort of, faded away, faded into the dustbins of history, as they would say. Besides, it's not even well known b'chlal, but he also forged Tosefta on a few Masechtas that we don't have Tosefta. If you
forged it and he made it up.
Yeah, the same way he made it for Yerushalmi Kachim. Part of his mahalach was, see, there were a lot of things that were fishy about it, but it was very hard to put their finger on it. For example, his name was Friedlander. Friedlander is a very Hungarian name. He claimed to have come from a Spanish family from the 1500s that, 200 years later or so moved to Hungary. So he signed his name like a Sephardi, right? Sephardim sometimes sign the name with Samach Tes, right? Whether it stands for Sintin or Sephardi Tahor or whatever it stands for. It's a shmuzl from Atzmai, right? So Rabbi Mazuz has big Torah on this for exactly what this is. I don't know if you know of any. I don't know. Probably none of you know what I'm talking about. It's fine, but the point is like this: that he signed his name like a Sephardi. The problem is, if your name is Friedlander, everybody knows you're Hungarian. You can't hide that. So he put together this whole ma'aseh. He went to visit his brother and to find some kvarim by some relative over there. B'kitzur, he was in Italy trying to find things. What he ended up doing was he ended up writing these documents himself, a lot of it. And how did he make it look? He aged the papers. He burnt some of it, and he did this, that, and the other thing. And ultimately he published this thing. And it was could you imagine the simcha that was going on in the Olam HaTorah at that point? It's not pshat that they printed a new Chelik Igros Moshe, or the pshat is that they reprinted a Mishnah Berurah, or they came out a new sefer from the Chafetz Chaim. This is from Tanam and Amiron. This is like a whole new world of Torah that just got created. Problem was, it wasn't from the Olam HaTorah. It's called Kulei from the Olam HaSheker. The sugyas didn't match up. Things into a lot of shvarkai. And the people that were fluent in the other four chalakim of Yerushalmi, and those that were fluent in all the chalakim of Babli, realized right away that there's something was going on over here, that it wasn't so miyushiv. There was something off about it. So, b'chlal, anybody who learns Yerushalmi can tell you right away that one of the most difficult parts of Yerushalmi is that it's very, very hard to figure out what exactly the Yerushalmi is saying, because it's very, very terse l'shain. It's very short, very cryptic, very not clear. So, if it doesn't understand, okay, it's not the end of the world, because Yerushalmi is difficult to understand altogether. We had things that were soiser of the Gemaras. I mean, he did a decent enough job to fool most people, but the real big eyes he couldn't fool. So, the Rogachover discovered that the problem was, the Rogachover and Ramis, they discovered they have the problem that there were no new names in there. Every Masech has a new name. This Gemara doesn't have a new name. Uncle Pan, a name of a Tan or a name of a Amir that's not mentioned anywhere else. Yeah. So back to this Rabbi David Tzvi Hoffman. So he was very busy with this kind of stuff. Anyways, besides for his Torah that he wrote, so he wrote books against these, biblical criticism people altogether, and he wrote his Pirush on Chumash, and he wrote Ha'aros on these midrashim that he found, that he discovered. Aside from all this very interesting stuff, he wrote Tshuvas like any other Rav or Rosh Hashiva would. And what's interesting is that if you look at these Tshuvas, they're extremely easy to read, and they're very, very gishmak, and he doesn't really bring big shtiklach Torah. They're relatively short and very to the point. Am I allowed to do this on Shabbos? Mutter, because the Gemara says this, Taisa says that, the Rosh says the other thing, end the story. But if you want to get a good glimpse of what life was like in Germany at the time, go through the Tshuvas and you'll see exactly what what the issues were. So in Chelik Gimel of his tshuvas are called Melamed L'Hoyel. His tshuvas are called Melamed L'Hoyel. So in Chelik Gimel Simen Ayin Tes, he writes that he saw, you see he was different. You're looking for Bencha in the top drawer over there. So in his tshuvas, he writes that he saw in the Sifrei Kusim exactly how they were Mezayif, how they forged and how they falsified the Torah. What did they do? Because Pasuk says, "Bayu u'Reshua ha'aretz asher nishba Hashem l'aveiseichem Avram v'Yitzchak v'Yaakov losis lehem u'lazarim achareyam." It also says in the Pasuk, "Leman tarichu yam malu adam asher nishba Hashem l'aveiseichem losis lehem u'lazarim eretz zavas chol v'dvash." So because in these psukim there's a raya to Tchias HaMesim, right? Because even though the Avos themselves didn't get Eretz Yisrael because they lived in Eretz Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to give them a havtacha on something that they already have. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that He's going to give them to L'zarachem acharechem, like we said last time. It says this was the raya that we saw earlier in the Gemara. This is going to be Tchias HaMesim and HaTorah. So they changed the psukim. They took out the word lahem, and they took out the word and in Shema also. No, so in Shema they didn't take out the word lahem, but similarly they used these ideas to change it to lachem. Okay, Ad Kan from Rav David Zehafman and the Shmuz and the Marsha. I just want to go into the sugya of the Kusim, where they're coming from, why they're so anti the Torah, what happened to them, and what's their philosophy, b'chlal, what's their agenda, what's their idea. So where do they come from? So first and foremost, there's a parasha, there's a parasha in Sefer Malachim that discusses this, in Malachim Beis Perek Yud Zayin. So it's a long parak, I could go through the whole thing now, but some psukim will read to give you a picture, to give you a sense of what's going on. This pasuk says the following. Pasuk starts off like this: B'shnash shteim esrei la'achos melech Yehuda malach Hoshea ben Eila b'Shomrain. This is important to pay attention that he was from Shomrain. Al Yisrael, Teisha Shanim. He was king for 9 years. Vayasar Rabbeinu Hashem. He did bad things in the eyes of Hashem. Rak l'kamal Yisrael shahayu l'fanav, but not like the other ones that were before him. Allah shal maneser melech Ashur. Vayihiloi Hoshea Eved vayoshav lemincha. Vayimtza melech Ashur v'shei kesher. Fine, weiter and weiter and weiter. Vayihi ki chotu b'nei Yisrael Hashem elikeihem hamalo yisamer tutzrayim v'yelchu b'chukes hagoyim. Vayatzivu lahem matzeves v'asherim, all kinds of avodah zarah. And Hashem sends the Navi to give them Musar to do it. V'lo shemeyu, they didn't listen. Vayazvu is called mitzvahs Hashem, and they were doing avodah zarah. Vayta doing avodah zarah. Agolim and Baal and Asherah and Kaisim Ksamim and Moilech. Okay, weiter. Vayove melech Ashur mi Bavel umi Kusa. The Kusim are from a town called Kusa. Umei Ava, umei Chamos, usfarvoyim. Vayoshev be'orei Shomer tachas b'nei Yisrael v'yishra Shomer v'yishra b'oreha. If you do research, you know your history a little bit. You know who the Shomronim are. The Shomronim are people that only do Torah Shabbat. They don't do Torah Shabbat. Very similar to the Tzedukim. This is what the pasuk says. Vayihi b'tchila shivtam sham. As soon as they moved into Shomron from Kusa, Lo yaru es Hashem. They did not fear Hashem. Vayishalach Hashem behem as harayas v'yiyu hargam behem. Hashem sent them lions, and the lions were killing them. Vayomer l'melech Ashur, and they said to the melech lemar hagoyim asher higlisa v'artoisha b'orei shomer leyodus mishpat elikei haaretz. They didn't know how to behave properly in this land. Vayishalach b'mas harayas v'inam emisa ma'isa b'kashreinam yedim mishpat elikei haaretz. What's going on? All of a sudden, these lions come and attack them. These goyim were doing avodah zarah, and then they come and they do avodah zarah, and then they get killed by the lions. So till they chapped what was going on, and then they taught them, not to do avodah zarah. Fine, and then the pasuk says that they v'anshe bavel asu esukas b'nois v'anshe kus asu es nergol. So even though allegedly they stopped doing avodah zarah, they were still doing avodah zarah secretly. Okay, let's get to the Gemara in Saita and get to other ideas of what the kusim were and what they were all about. Yeah. So what we have is brisa in Sotah Lamed Gimel Amud Beit. It goes like this. We know when Klal Yisrael comes into Eretz Yisrael, Psukim in Yeshua, Psukim in Chumash, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, 6 Shvatim are going to stand on Har Grizim, 6 Shvatim are going to stand on Har Eval, and the Leviim and the Aron Kodesh are going to be in the middle of the valley, and they're going to give the brachas, and they're going to give the klalis, and, life's going to be good. So the problem was like this. Tanya Omer Elazar Berbi Yossi. B'davar zeh zeyafti Sifrei Kusim. I proved the Kusim wrong from what they write themselves. Amarti lahem, I said to them, zeyaftim teraschem. You forged your own Torah. This is the exact same lashon as the Gemara by us in Sanhedrin. Sha'atam Omer Meloinei Moira Shchem. Af Anu Moed M'Sheloinei Moira Shchem. Anu Limdanuha B'Gzer Shava. Atam Amalamadatum. We learned in our Torah that Eloinei Moira is next to Shchem from Gzer Shava. But because you don't believe in the Yud Gimel Midah Shetar Nedreshes Behem, because you only believe in exactly what it says on the Chumash, in the page of the Chumash, so then how do you know that Eloinei Moira is next to Shchem? So in their Chumashim, they actually wrote that Eloinei Moira is Shchem. Not that it's next to Shchem, that it is Shchem. They changed that. So it says in Tosfos over here, brings Yerushalmi, Mama Kain Rebbe Elazar, Har Grizim v'Har Evel, Shtegav Shushi Yos Hayu Asui, V'kar Zeh Har Grizim Zeh Har Evel. Okay, could be, it's machlekes, did they, when Klal Yisrael got there, did they have to travel, or they came to the place of Har Grizim and Har Evel? That was the point. So the problem was like this. The problem was that the Gemara Chulun says, what's the halacha? Is kusi ladder shech? Did you trust the shechita or not? It's big machlekes in the Gemara back and forth, right? But the Gemara says that there was were they gerei emes or they were gerei rai? So they become gerim because they were scared of the lions, and really they were doing avodah zarah the whole time, and just outwardly they looked Jewish, or they were talking gerei emes. Because certain people got punished. The ones that did avodah zarah got punished, and the ones didn't. You could answer something like that. It's not such a kasha. It's mechanish king kasha. So what happened was that they were always regarded to some extent as gerei emes, for certain things, right? Until it was discovered that they were being oved avodah zarah on Har Grizim. Now the question is, why are they? I want to focus on a couple of inyanim over here. They were very busy with Har Grizim, as we're going to show you a medrash that Tosfos brings. Tosfos and Chulun brings a medrash.
Is it most brachos or plus?
Oh, it's a good question. What do you think? As habracha al Har Grizim, v'saklal al Har Evel. I'll show you the medrash. The medrash speaks this out. So what does the Gemara say? Chulun davav. The Gemara says that. Gazar Aleah, my timer. So why were they Gazar on the Kusum? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, the Mus Yoina Matzu Lehem Bereish Har Grizim She'oivdim Ma'isa. They found the Mus Yoina, the form of a dove, on top of Har Grizim, and they were being oived. Zog Tosfos, the Medrash Yesh Shehi Avodas Kechavim Shehid Ben Yaakov Tachas Ha'ela Bahar B'Shchem. Pasuk says in Chumash, last week's parasha, that Yaakov hid the Avodah Zarah. The Yaakov hid the Avodah Zarah under Shchem. So really, what the Kusim are doing is that they're just going, they didn't make a new Avodah Zarah here. They just took the Avodah Zarah that Yaakov was mevatel and buried under the mountain in Shchem, and they reignited that Avodah Zarah to do that Avodah Zarah. So if the Kasha, so then Yaakov wasn't mevatel the Avodah Zarah was still there. Right? So that's what Al Rishonim, the Ramban has this Kasha. Rabbi B'chai is busy with this. The halacha is like this. You want to be mevatel avodah zarah? There's a whole sugya of avodah zarah about being mevatel avodah zarah. How do you mevatel avodah zarah? You have to crush it up into powder, basically, like Moshe Rabbeinu did by the egel, and throw it into the Yam HaMelech. That's the Lashon HaGemara. You can burn it. Burying it, nobody says it. This is Lashon Ramban. Nobody said in Vayishlach, Nobody says that you could bury the Avodah Zarah. Burying Avodah Zarah is not a thing. So Rabbeinu Bechai says that the pshat is that he was in the middle of a milchama between a whole bunch of different nations. So it wasn't shaykh to start making bonfires to burn it or to schlep it all the way to Yam HaMelech. He was traveling with milchamas. It wasn't pashut. So Rabbeinu Bechai touches on this a little bit, and he says that although it's not mefurish in the psukim, but it's mefurish in Chazal, the Midrashim will go through it. Sefer HaYoshar, I think, which is a shmuz l'fnei atzma, is that a reliable sefer or not? But yeah, it's a big shmuz if it's reliable or not. But Al Kapana, the point is that he was running away, and he was on the way, and he was running away, and he was in the middle of a milchama, so he couldn't exactly go to Yam HaMelech. He couldn't exactly Yam HaMelech, not necessarily Yam HaMelech, any body of water to get rid of it that way, or to burn it, or to be mevatel it the regular way. So the next best option was to burn it. So I just want to go through the psukim there. It's very interesting because I'm scratching my head a little bit about what's going on with these psukim. This whole sugya of Yaakov Avinu burying this Avodah Zarah, B'chlal not familiar to me. V'yamer lehim al Yaakov kum alei beis el v'shev sham v'asei sham mizbeach le'el hanira elecha b'varchacha v'bnei esav achicha. V'yamer Yaakov al beis el kol ashri imei hasiris alehei anecha shabasechechem v'yitar v'achlifisam le'sechem. V'nokum v'nala beis el v'asei sham mizbeach le'el o'ernei subiyam saraz v'yibadu b'derech shalachti. V'yitnu al Yaakov es kol alehei anecha asher b'yodam es hanizam asher bazem v'yitnu men oisim Yaakov tachas ha'ela asher im Shechem. Under the tree, min ilon srak, im Shechem, etzel Shechem. So he hid them under the tree. And everybody left him alone, and then there was no more Avodah Zarah. What's this business over here that the Kusim now are going back to that original Avodah Zarah of that Yaakov got rid of from this Milchama, right? This was Avodah Zarah from they just killed out the whole town of Shechem, right? So this was all the leftovers from the war. All the Avodah Zarah that Shechem had. So then we have to get rid of them. So how do we get rid of them? We don't get rid of them by burning it. We get rid of it by planting it in the mountain. Who knows how many thousands? Let's say 1,000 years later, probably more. The Kusim come and they bring back to life Yana Alta Avodah Zarah. It's interesting, yeah. So we have to understand something over here. I think one of the big questions that we have to ask is that what's pshat that they got so busy with it. Yeah? So I want to say two things. First is a Gemara in Zavachim, and then we have a Medrash on the Pasuk. So Gemara in Zavachim has a big shaila, a Kufyud Gimel, a big shaila about the Mabul. Because the Kusim claim, why are they so busy with Har Gerizim? Because when the Mabul came over the whole world, Har Gerizim was spared. Azay Zog and the Kusim. Azay Zog and the Kusim. Okay. Now, what should that trigger in your mind right away? We know. We were taught that there's a Mandamar Chazal that says that Eretz Yisrael did not get hit with a Mabul.
What happened to all the people there?
What happened to all the people where?
Yeah, that's true.
Who said anything?
Because there was no other people. And then
all the people that needed to get washed away got washed away. I guess there were no people in their children that needed to go washed away. Let's say. Why is that such a terrible answer? That's not an answer, because then it's not a question. What? No, it's a good question. Because it's a big machlekes in the Gemara. But Kafi Ha'amar comes out very strange. What's the problem with what they said? Right? But Parshas, the reason why it's a problem, and we're going to see from the Medrash in a second, is because they hold that the reason why it didn't get touched by the Mabul is because of their Avodah Zarah in it. It's because of the special powers, as they claim, that Har Gerizim has. It doesn't really have.
wasn't there till Yaakov buried it there.
So that's good. They claim that Har Gerizim already had supernatural powers even before Yaakov Avinu put stuff there. So let's see what the Gemara says. The Gemara is Zvachim Kufyud Gimel. Amar Lai Rabbi Yechanan, V'aloi Kol Eretz Yisrael B'dukehi. This is talking about if you find dead bones on the floor and whatever. So Yeah, the Shiloh of Tumas Eretz Amim. So if you do find bones, you don't find bones. So the Gemara says that Lo Yor the Mabel Eretz Yisrael. The Mabel didn't go down to Eretz Yisrael. So by my if we get Marsav a yard, Mabel Eretz Yisrael, Marsav a Lo Yard. Amr Nach Mitzchak Shnei Mikra Echadorshu. Ben Adam is supposed to get Yecheskel. Emor Lo At Eretz Leimet Toyharahi V'Lo Yigushma B'Yom Zam. That Eretz Yisrael didn't get hit by the Mabel. So on the side that the Mabel was in Eretz Yisrael, so then the people that were living in Eretz Yisrael, so what happened to the people? We're going to get to that in a second. Shmuel, that was your question. The people in Eretz Yisrael. So Rashi says that that if the Mabel was in Eretz Yisraal, so then Nishku Uba Atzmait HaMesim. So then the ground of Eretz Yisrael has bones from the Mabel people, right?
Yeah, but I'm Jewish anyway.
Yeah, so that's a separate question. So maybe there is Tumas Atahim even on Goys, could be like Tumas Maga. The Bris Grov says some kind of word like this. Yeah, it may be a question, maybe not, right? But Al Kapanim, that's Tosis over here brings Tema. Bichlal, it's a question on this whole Chazal because the pasuk says, "Vayochasu kol lahor magavayim mishatachas kol hashemayim." Says that the water of the Mabel covered over all the high mountains. Asher tachas kol hashemayim. More than the thing, what's kol hashemayim mean? Vayochasu kol lahor hagavayim. Say gavayim, not say gavayim either way. Asher tachas kol hashemayim. You have two ribuis, right? Vayochasu kol lahor asher tachas kol hashemayim. Rachis Rabba Amrina under Bishmal Berbi Yossi, Ubahami Echad Heyu Halchem B'Derech. Bishmal Berbi Yossi and a animal person, somebody who's taking care of animals, was traveling. Pirish Bahami Shemer Behemis. Amar Lahaina Hukusa Isut Tzli Al Tura Grizim. Won't you want to come and pray with me on Mount Grizim? The Loy Nachas Alei Tufna, because the Mabel didn't get to Har Grizim. Amar Oisa Bahami with friend Bishmal Berbi Yossi, Rebbe Taylor Rishos Lahashav Leitshuva. Give me a chance to answer him. That's what the Bahami. This Bahami was Jewish. Tell him to answer this Har Grizim mispalo. Omalei Har Grizim tachas kol shemayim. He says Har Grizim is under all the heavens. Omalei hey v'loik siv v'echaz kol har magvayim shetachas kol shemayim. He says, but the pasuk doesn't say that that every mountain got covered with water by the Mabel. Even the Bahami, even the simple shepherd, he's going to be able to answer the question. So, Taisus didn't answer the question yet. That there was a lot of steam and toxic fumes that were around by the Mabel, and that could have caused the destruction and the death of the people in Eretz Yisrael and the Har Grizimites. This Kusi held that there was nothing there, that Har Grizim was totally spared. When we picture in our mind that Eretz Yisrael was spared from the Mabel, that there was nothing that didn't go there at all. Akash Baruch Hu was protecting a mamish. But over here, he held that like Har Grizim was like mamish, a hell of a good place. But it was mamish protected from the Mabel. Okay. So let's see what this medrash is that Taisus is sort of referring to. This is Bereshis Rabbah Pei Aleph Gimel. Vayem Yaakov al Beisai. Yeah, it's going on Posuk Beis. Amr Krus Bedoy, Amr Yechanan, Ein Anu Bekim B'Dikduk Aveids Kechavin Yaakov Avinu. We don't know the nuances on the Dikdukim of Avodah Zarah like Yaakov Avinu knew. The Tanan Hamaitzi Kalim, Alam Tzuras Chama, Tzuras Levana, Tzuras Hadrak, and Elichin Yam HaMelech. Right? So this is saying, like we said before, that you have to get rid of Yam HaMelech, but Yaakov Avinu didn't do that. Right? They had to get rid of all the clothing also that they took from there. This is Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Saluk L'Talib Yerushalayim. He went to daven in Yerushalayim. Ovar Baharden Platnos. He passed a Platnos is Har Grizim. That the Kusim, this I'm reading from the Eitz Yosef, that the Kusim hold to be their holy place.
Isn't the place still there?
So I was waiting for somebody to ask that. There is a Yesh Aimrim, and there are people that go to a place that's considered Har Grizim and Har Evel, but I just saw something recently that it's not really, it doesn't stem with the Psukim and whatever. But there's some machlekes in the Gemara where it is. So it's not so. They decided that it's there, but okay. Like with all these things, there's 17 opinions.
Is that one of them was like all beer and whatever, the other one was all nice?
Is that what it says by Grizim and Areva? I don't know. So he passed by Har Grizim, V'chama Yosei Chas Shamroi. So one of the Shamrainim, the Shamroi is from the Shamrainim, the people that don't believe in Torah Shabbat. Omar Leil Hechen Atazel. So he asked the Rishma Berbi Yossi, where you going? Omar Leil Mosik Mitzali B'Had Yerushalayim. I want to go pray in Yerushalayim. Omar Leil V'Lo Tavlach Mitzali B'Had Torah B'Reicha V'Lo B'Hi Kakalta. He says, why do you want to daven in your broken down, in your destruction? Come and daven on the blessed mountain. And they refer to Har Grizim as the blessed mountain. The Torah does say that they gave the brachas on Har Grizim, right? I guess it was after the Mikdash was destroyed already. Why do you go daven in that ruin? He said to them, he said, I'll tell you what you could be compared to. He tells us, Shemraini, you're like a dog that's chasing after a carcass. You think I don't know that the reason why you want me to daven on Har Grizim is because you have Avodah Zarah there. You want me to daven to Avodah Zarah. He's proselytizing them to become a Har Grizite, to become a Shemerni. He's not doing it for good things. The reason why you're busy chasing after me to go daven there is because you have Avodah Zarah there. You want me to daven there. Amrin Dain Boy Minasba. V'nisyatzu olav laharga v'kam v'arak balayla. So then he got very nervous about him, and then he had to run away from there. Meaning that after that, Rashi says over here, that after Bishmal Berbi Yossi found out that there's Avodas Kechavim there, and he said no to the Avodah Zarah, so he might kill him, so he ran for his life. Yeah? So what's this business that he's telling him that this is the har brecha, tura brecha, and don't daven by hikal kalta, don't daven by semek, just daven to brecha. So I saw a shtickle pshat in this whole maser.
Is this all the kuthin?
Yeah. What do you mean all of them?
So every kuti would say it would also be a hard grizay.
Yeah. Their base on mikdash kavyochel, lahavdil. Their base on mikdash is Har Grizim. So the question was the question that was bothering me is that if they don't care about anything that it says in the Torah, really, they claim that they care what it says in Torah Shabbat. They don't care about what it says in Torah Shabbat because they changed Torah Shabbat also, because they changed that they learn Meira is Shem, right? And they changed the psukim around. They take out lahem and they write lachem, right? They change it kafid that it's shishtim with their agenda, right? But at the same time, they have to hold on to something to make believe as if they're holding on to it. So that's why they take Har Grizim. It's just a random place. I mean, the fact that Hakadosh Baruch Hu gave the brachas there, does that give it some kind of kedusha for Klal Yisrael? Maybe, but we wouldn't use it because we know A, Yaakov Avinu put Avodah Zarah there, and B, the Kusim themselves, they are, they're over there also. Some Sefer says, I'm trying to remember exactly what the Sefer says. Oror, somebody who does Avodah Zarah b'Seiser, he says very interesting because the Avodah Zarah of Har Grizim itself is Avodah Zarah b'Seiser. So that's why the Torah says Dafka. What do you mean? Somebody does Avodah Zarah, so who cares if it's Begoli b'Seiser? Who cares how the Avodah Zarah is being done? But the point is that the Metzias of the Avodah Zarah of Har Grizim is not b'Seiser. Rather interessant, I wanted to mention this also earlier. Rabbeinu Ephraim, who's from the Rishonim, writes that the Avodah Zarah, he brings the gematria from the pasuk, that from one of the words of the pasuk, I don't remember which one, that it's gematria Yeshu. So maybe the Christians have some business with Har Grizim. Also, I don't know. I was trying to look into this. I didn't come up with anything clear. But that there is some other belief. There is other religions that are being gebayit and being created out of Har Grizim, which is all obviously silly and shtuyot. So what's a pshat?
I'm just wondering the fights that broke out by the actual who got to go in which mountain.
So it was very clear b'nevuah where they should all go. I forgot exactly. It's a Gemara Soita. The Gemara goes through, which Al Lamed Gimel. That's Sugi of Brachas and Klalos. It was very clear where everybody should go, and it doesn't seem like there was an issue of the people going to get the Brachas and to get the Klalos. The issue would become at a later date when the people are going to start being a bit of a desire. Right now they're being Shem Termits. Right now they could be Mekam. They're being Mekam the terrorists that they could get the brachas, and they're not being Mekam the terrorists, and they have problems. Yeah. So why is he telling him that you're demed to a kelev that's a lohot achar nevela? Just to one duke in Lashon HaMedrash. The pshat is because the Gemara says in Psachim that a kelev can sniff into 3 tvachim into the ground. I mean, he can find what's tama. So Rabbi Yossi is telling him, even a kelev is going to be able to sniff out Avodah Zarah here, because he knows what's buried under the ground over here. So don't try to fool me to try to convince me to dive in here. Just like a kelev knows there's Avodah Zarah here, I also know that there's Avodah Zarah over here. So you don't try to trick me into that. All right, I think that's. One last thing. This is supposed to be from the main things for tonight. So we're trying to figure out what's this got to do with Hanukkah. What's this got to do with anything? Yeah.
Same as regular day Shiva or things like that, which ends up.
Right. So very fascinating thing. If you look in Megillus Tainus, which is a sefer from Chazal that goes through different historical events and how they celebrated. We don't really, I'm saying in practice, we don't really know much. I'm saying if you look in different books and different, Yahrzeit books that tell you different things, and if you learn Megillus Tainus, you'll know also. Like upon him, it says that on Chaf Aleph Bekislev is called Yom Har Grizim. Why? I'll tell you why. So there's a Gemara Yuma on Samach Tes and Aleph that goes through it, although the Gemara doesn't say that it's Chaf Aleph Kislev. It says Chaf Hey Teves, but it's really supposed to be Asur. That everybody corrected to Chaf Aleph Kislev. Okay, either way, however you want to have it. Yeah? What's the Gimel? What do they say over here? Tzarech Leimer Be'esan Ve'echad Boi V'hu Be'Kislev. Yeah, that's what the Dukei Sefer brings. That's what it is. You're familiar with half of the story. But as of, let's say on 21 Kislev Yom Har Grizim, the Leila Mispad. The no has paid them on 21 Kislev. Why? Yom Shebikshu Kusam as Beis Alekenim Alexander's Moiktin. We know the story of Shimon HaTzadik and Alexander the Great, right? So what happened was that the Kusam asked Alexander's Moiktin if they could have the Beis HaMikdash. And he was going to conquer the world. So if the Kusam want the Beis HaMikdash, and they'll be nice to Alexander the Great, then he'll give them the Beis HaMikdash, no problem, right? Or so it would seem. So Yom Har Grizim would learn. But Yom Shebikshu Kusam is Beis Alekenim Alexander's Moiktin La'achrivai v'nasun lahem. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to get you the Beis HaMikdash." Bo v'yidiu Shimon HaTzadik. He came to notify Shimon HaTzadik about this. Ma also, what did he do? Lavash Big Day Kahuna. He put on Big Day Kahuna. Misatif Big Day Kahuna. What's lavash and what's misatif? Maybe the Big Day Lavan, Big Day Zahav. Umeakira Yisrael Imai, and from the Chashav people went with him, and with torches in their hands. That the Alexander's Moiktin was going up the mountain this way, and Shimon HaTzadik was going up the mountain the other side, until it came time for the morning. Once it became morning, he said to them, Yahalalu. He said, who are these people? These are the Jews that rebelled against you. Once he got to this place, Antipatris, it became day. And they bumped into each other. He got off his chariot and he bowed down to him. So they said to Alexander the Great, come on, enough with this old rabbi. What are you bowing down to him for? He said, I always see the image of this man whenever I'm fighting a war. So why do you come? Shimon HaTzadik says, the house that helps you win your wars, you're going to give it over to the kusim to help destroy it. Omalem bihalal. Said, who are these people? Who wants to destroy the Beis Hamikdash? Omalem kusim. Halalu shaimdem kusim halalu shaimdem lufonecha. The kusim that are standing up in front of you. Omalem, Alexander the Great said, Harehem mesurim biyadechem. They are yours. I'm giving them over to you. Miyad nokvam beikveyem. So right away the Jews went and they poked them and they shot them. They poked them in their heels. The Tolam bezinvei susayim, and they tied them to the tails of their horses. And they were schlepping them on the thorns. They basically tortured all of the kusim until they got to Hargrizim. They plowed over the entire Hargrizim, Zaru, Karshinim, and they planted beans over there. The way that they wanted to do to the Beis Hamikdash, they did to Hargrizim. So the Yidden went at the time of Shemini Tzadik and destroyed Hargrizim. Suhu Yontif. And that day they made into a Yontif to celebrate that they got rid of the Kusim, and B, the Beis Hamikdash wasn't destroyed. Right? I think the other part of the story, or maybe elsewhere in Chazal, it says that Alexander wanted to put a statue of himself in the Beis Hamikdash, and Tzadik told him no, but we'll name all the kids after them.
And that's where the name Alexander.
That's where the name Alexander comes from. Again, a not Jewish name, right? I was looking into it, because there's even a Moira in the Gemara, Rabbi Alexander, even times in the Gemara they had this name already. So I was just looking into it to give more of a background, but I didn't really get.
What was the other one?
What?
You said another non-Jewish name. What was the other one?
Oh, we were talking about before. We were talking about the names of the months: Nisan, Iyar, Tishrei, Cheshvan. They're Shemesh, Olam, Mibava. They're not Jewish names. Maybe even Avodah Zarah related names.
I know
You have to look in the Ramban on Acher Shezalachem.
I know the English ones are Zichar.
June, July, August. For sure.
Well, July is
Julius,
Caesar,
right?
Julius Caesar, no?
August is like Augusta or something.
Augustus.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah, so that's the story with that's the story with the Kusim. There's a lot of halachas that we find to be makbid by Kusim, right? If you don't hear Ein Ein Amen Acher Kusi Amavarech, right? We know that if you Kusim don't make brachas because they're not davening to Hashem. Now we know that they're goyim. I mean, now they have dinim of goyim b'chlal, right? But there's a point in history where they felt that there was more to it than that they were seriously megayer, But that's the story. So that's what Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. That's really where he was trying to do.